A long, long time ago, when witches and magic were rife on Dartmoor, is where our story begins. This is the story of the Hunter Bowerman. Bowerman was a tall and strong man who lived on the eastern side of Dartmoor. He had a pack of very loyal hounds, and together they were fearless hunters and never missed a kill, which won him many favours among the moorfolk who admired Bowerman greatly. However, there was one group of people on Dartmoor who did not like Bowerman, the witches. The local witches' coven would meet on the high moor to make their potions and cast their spells, and although the local people were afraid of them, Bowerman was not. Instead, he would laugh and brag that he was afraid of no one, not even the devil himself. But Bowerman should have been afraid of the witches, as to them he was their enemy. Not only did he parade around telling villagers not to be frightened of them, and ruining the power that the witches held over the moorfolk, but Bowerman was also one of the greatest hunters of the witches' most beloved wild animal, the hare. One late autumn evening, while hunting over the clitters and mires of the moor, Bowerman and his hounds caught scent of a hare. Ever determined to catch their prey, they charged onwards at full speed and, without realising, entered the clearing in a small wooded valley where the witches' coven met. Suddenly, with a loud crash, Bowerman and his hares tore through a gathering of the witches, spilling their large cauldron full of putrid potion and scattering them to the ground. But Bowerman did not stop, and nor did his hounds. On they charged. The witches were outraged. They shrieked and wailed after Bowerman as he and his hounds disappeared through the trees. "Enough!" came the cry of one, Levira. "Next time Bowerman dares hunt, it will be me that he is trying to catch." The other witches cheered and cackled, for they all knew that Levira had a very special power, one that is common among witches. She could turn herself into a hare. The next evening, as the witches had expected, the sounds of hounds and horses' hooves were heard coming up the valley. Bowerman was purposely entering the witches' clearing once again to impress the villagers, who thought him a hero. This only angered the coven further. Quickly the witches hid themselves, all but one, Levira, who transformed into the largest and most wondrous hare that Bowerman had ever set eyes on. As soon as he and his loyal pack saw the hare, they set to chase, determined to make a prize of this beautiful creature. But this was no ordinary hare, as we know, and so this was not an ordinary chase for Bowerman either. Although his hounds were at the hare's heels for many miles, the animal continued to evade them, leading them all across the moor, through bogs, across streams, weaving around tors and through mires and woodlands, and still the hare went on. Bowerman and his hounds found themselves completely exhausted, but still they pushed on, determined not to be beaten and risk the loss of their reputation. Finally, the hare too began to slow, and just as the hounds were getting steadily closer, the creature disappeared over the crest of a hill. Bowerman galloped on, his hounds at the horses' hooves, and followed the hare right into a trap. Coming to a sudden halt, Bowerman fell from his horse, which fled, and he found himself encircled by the entire coven of witches, including one who stood above him, Levira. "Bowerman, for too long you have hunted our hares and meddled in our magic." And with that, Levira pointed her long finger at the hunter and cast her spell. In an instant, Bowerman was turned to stone, becoming the huge granite structure that we today know as Bowerman's Nose. His hounds, petrified of the witches without their master to protect them, ran in the direction of Widdicombe, but sadly they were not quick enough, and the other witches cast a spell on them too, and that is how some of us believe that Hound Tor came to be.